Good evening, history nerds and those who love true crime, and welcome to Nerder with me, your host, Leslie. Okay, let's get to it. First, a couple of things. I don't do makeup in my videos, not because there's anything wrong with that. I can barely put on my underpants without falling over. I'm not going to try and do makeup, remember everything, and talk. Oh, and speaking of remember everything, I'm almost 50 with an actual diagnosis of ADHD and autism. I'm not even going to pretend that I am memorizing all this stuff, okay? I got notes. Y'all are just going to have to deal with it. Let's get to it, shall we? Let's go back to the 1920s. It's a time of jazz, of optimism, and for dozens of women across America, an absolute living terror. A man they called the gorilla killer is on the loose. This is the story of Earle Nelson, one of America's first documented serial killers. A man of strange charm, biblical obsession, and darkness. Earle was born in San Francisco in 1897. His childhood was a tragedy before it even had a chance to unfold. When he was just a small child, both of his parents died, leaving him to be raised by his, I don't want to use the word psycho, but we'll just say extremely strict, overly religious grandmother. Neighbors said he was quiet. Of course they did. What do you see on the news when they interview the psycho killer next door? What do the neighbors always say? He was so quiet. He just kept to himself. That should have been a huge red flag. But then again, we are talking about the 1920s, and they didn't even have the term serial killer yet. But I'm sure they knew what psychos were. Anyway, he was quiet, he was polite, he was strange. When he was 10 years old, he was hit by a streetcar. He cracked his skull. Now, I am positive this boy suffered a traumatic brain injury because next they say he started talking to himself, incessantly quoting the Bible, and having terrifying and sudden bursts of anger. So, people still could not imagine the absolute havoc this damaged mind would wreak on society. In his 20s, Nelson bounced from town to town and job to job. He also stole and spent significant amount of time in mental institutions. Doctors called him insane, this is a quote, insane but harmless. They were very, very wrong. He began targeting women advertising rooms for rent. They'd open their homes to a polite young stranger, and then moments later, they're fighting for their lives while he strangles them to death, leaving their bodies twisted and hidden. From California to Oregon, from Illinois to Canada, Nelson drifted like a ghost. Rent a room, kill, disappear. Rent a room, kill, disappear, and on and on. Tall and muscular, the press labeled him the gorilla killer. Earle's uncanny ability to vanish planted fear in every home that dared to put up a sign, room for rent. Why would you at this point? Well, I guess hard times. You do what you got to do. Investigators were baffled. There was no clear pattern. There were no fingerprints, and they could not understand how one man could cross so many borders. In 1927, Nelson's killing spree reached Canada. In Winnipeg, his final victim would be the one to bring him down. You see, Mrs. Patterson did something that Earle did not expect. She fought back. Go girl. She fought back, she screamed, and that alerted the neighbors. They saw Nelson run and were able to give the police a clear description of him. And of course, so did Mrs. Patterson. After days on the run, Earle Nelson was caught. At trial, reporters described him as calm, almost detached, quoting scripture even while confronted with his gruesome acts. Like, he wasn't even there. He was somewhere else entirely. He was hanged in January 1928, and as the noose tightened around his neck, Earle Leonard Nelson offered no apology, just that eerie calm he had always displayed. Nelson's story predates the term serial killer. The FBI had no label for someone who committed so many murders. Some people call him evil. Some people think that he is the victim of a traumatic brain injury and untreated psychosis. But one truth remains. Earle Leonard Nelson was the nightmare that crept through American doorways at night. A reminder that even the most polite stranger can hide a deep, deep darkness. If you like these kind of stories, if you like history, if you like true crime, stab that like button and go ahead and subscribe. Until next time, my friends, stay nerdy, stay safe.